Come on in, find a seat. You haven't missed anything. In fact, let's have a little bit of number one music. Loud, loud, loud.
You roll the dice and you hope to land on a ladder. You roll the dice and you hope it's not a snake.
So that's kind of what this talk is about today. Just to warm us up, actually, I don't know if it's possible to put those lights down a bit so I can see people. Is that possible? Anybody? No? Live with it. Okay, so I'm just wondering who makes music or who's a creator, plays an instrument. Yeah, we've got a few. Nice to see you're awake. And what about the talk is about the journey map of a change maker. Hi, come on in. We've done a quick transition here. The talk is about the journey map of a change maker. So how many of you, I'm imagining quite a few as agile coaches and other things, but you have a job as an agent of change in your organization, or you're just naturally a catalyst and you find that people call you an agent of change and you're making changes happen. Yeah? Either of those, everybody, hands up? Yeah, so I'm talking. Hi, come on in. I might have to start again. Shall I start again? I'm going to get the music again, and they've missed the excitement. So, talking about organisational transformations and bringing change, being agents of change in that context. So, for all those people who just came in, I had a hand raised. We might have to do it again. So you're either a change maker in your organisation, or you're a natural change maker. You're a catalyst of change. So just hands up again, please. Yeah. And so then, how's that going? Like thumbs up, thumbs down, or up. Sometimes it's good. Sometimes it's we're getting quite a few of these. Right. So that's not really surprising because according to McKinsey, less than 30% of organisational transformations succeed. And that's over a number of years they've been doing the research. And digital transformations, the number is even lower than that. At the end of the slides, which I won't show you, there's the sources for that, but you can just type McKinsey and organisational transformations, you will find these articles that this is sourced from. So just to check in on what this talk is about today, it's not about what to do and how to make your organisational transformation a success, because this whole conference is helping you be agile by example. Steve's introductory talk this morning about focusing on the customer is obviously a key point. And just, sowing that change throughout the organisation. He was talking about SRI, I think it was, and how it takes time to sow the ideas into people's minds that they can then go, okay, yeah, maybe we do need to take it a different approach. So it's more about how do you cope with the kind of, when it's going like this, and sometimes you think, wow, this is working out really well, and then that person leaves the organisation, like he was saying. The person who's leading the change isn't there anymore, and somebody who's got a different, more of a controlling mindset takes over. So I'm going to be talking more about attention, where you turn your attention, and energy, how you generate your energy. So it's kind of more about taking care of yourself, really, so that you can keep on. So just a bit of my background. The leaf I was chewing on was IP software, intellectual property software, managing trademarks and patents. So it's B2B, we have very few clients, but very demanding. It would run, the software runs their entire organisation, and of course then is integrated with everything else. We had software developers in a number of different countries. I was talking to Adriana yesterday, I think, and similar sounding situation with acquisitions. And And the software itself was very configurable to the extent that the help desk wouldn't necessarily recognise the software because the clients could make it look like whatever they wanted, organise their workflow so that they could be competitive with each other, even though they're still using the same software around their workflows. I was a little caterpillar doing software development and then working with clients as an integration manager, a lot of data exchange work, often finding that the hole in the data exchange was actually the people communication, not necessarily the data communication, and then managing that product. So then about 10 years ago, I did a master's in Paris in a industrial design school around innovation by design. It was a course that they'd designed to bring ideas from design into organisations, very much like what Stephanie was talking about, that kind of approach of having hackathons or just learning that things can change rapidly and that people have that capacity to bring ideas and make them happen much more quickly than many organisations believe. So shifting that focus to be more on the customer, on the actual requirements, not thinking we're the experts and we know what they need, but really helping that be drawn from them. So I changed my role in the organisation, became a design and innovation strategist there. I can't help mentioning this little guy who's there waiting to, or caterpillar, waiting to burst into a butterfly, reminds me, well, he was drawn from the basil plant that I picked from my balcony, and I was washing out the leaves, and then I found him on the back of one of them. So that was one of the transformations that failed, I'm sorry. But I didn't eat him, but he did go in the rubbish. Yeah, I know. So one of the ways that I used to try and sow these ideas of, what we're doing isn't necessarily always working for the client, was to use comics. This is a bit scratchy old because I was just starting to experiment with these, and now my line's got a bit stronger. So so there's someone coming to the boss in the boss chair. Should we do some user research before we start work on this module? Not necessary. We know the requirements. It's been in the product for years without a complaint. Months later, ta-da! You'll love this renovation of our new feature. You'll love this our renovation of this great feature. So the boss is presenting the same thing done with, new technology. But don't worry, the functionality is essentially the same. And then the client's there going, but we never use that module. It just doesn't get the job done. And I brought they were always from, actual client quotes. So I wasn't making these things up. I was just sort of trying to reflect what's actually going on out there. We were about to redo a whole module that the clients never used. They went in and just did their own coding behind the scenes. And then happily, we then got the opportunity to do some research with the clients and create a module that they actually just started using because they liked and started telling each other about how good it was and stopped going around the back through the coding. I was at a conference and I met a design research manager who said, oh, well, that's really exciting what you're doing. It'll take you 20 years. And I'm like, I don't have 20 years. So I was thinking about this, but she said, but what's really interesting is the whole process. So because she was a design management researcher, she said, just note down everything that happens. Note down the meetings, note down the successes, note down the failures. Just keep track of it because it might be useful. So I was like, oh, okay then. So I started copying and pasting the emails and all of the things, the interactions, everything I was trying to bring in and what was happening. And then at a certain point, I was invited to speak to some design students about this kind of thing. And so I got all that information back out and I put it all around the room. And there were a lot of post-it notes of all of the interactions. And I was thinking, okay, well, I'll make a customer journey map. And I was kind of imagining it might be like a roller coaster, it sort of go up and down, and you kind of eventually get to the point. But it turned out it was more like a game of snakes and ladders. So I'm not sure how many people are familiar with this game? Yeah, about half of you. So what happens is, oh, I've got a pointer, hang on. Yay. So you go along, you go along. So it goes this way. You're heading up the board, trying to get here. And you, in my version, you roll a 1 to get on the board, so there's about 3 or 4 people maybe playing. You roll a 1 to get started, so even to get on the board, there might be a low level of frustration. And then you, when it's your turn, you roll the dice and you move along the number of squares. So you might land here, uneventful, nothing's happening, you stay there and wait for your next turn. You might land on a ladder, so there's something here that's a little message. It might be you're able to organise a hackathon for the whole company and 700 people sign up. And it's like, woo, that's a ladder right there. Up we go. Things are looking good. Or you might land on a snake, which is something like, budget was cut. I know, it's a great program. But we're going to have to let all the agile coaches go because we just haven't seen the, change in time. Whatever. Snake. So. Oh yeah. So then I had the students play this game. I had a few of them around, and I came past one table. It was taking them about half an hour to finish, and one of the student said to me, "It's no fun, your game." And I was like, "Well, what's going on?" And he'd headed up, he'd gone along to about square 20 on the way to 100, and he'd hit a snake. Meeting was cancelled with the manager. You want to talk about this hackathon idea. Down back to 5. Roll again, get the way around. The other people are kind of moving up the board. Rolls around, gets to square 20. Meeting was cancelled about the hackathon idea. Back to square 5. Rolls again, keeps rolling. The others are going up the board. Comes around, back on square 20. Meeting was cancelled about the hackathon. And that happened to him 5 times. And he was like, I'm going nowhere. And I was like, well, this happened to me 5 times in real life. And you can't take it personally. They've got a child that has to go to hospital. There's a client with an urgent issue. There's, whatever it is. There's the building burns down. Something might crop up, or that it can be they hate your guts and they don't want to meet you. But you have to get to the bottom of that, and but don't assume that. It's there's a lot of randomness involved, and what's interesting is that even though you're in this game, you're just throwing the dice, how frustrated you can feel, how physically frustrated you can feel, and it's just chance that's keeping you down in that loop. Or when you get to the end, if you happen to hit the 100 and you're like, I am the one and I've been awesome, and you've just been rolling the dice like everybody else about the same number of times. So it's just really interesting to be aware of that. I'm not saying that it's only chance. I mean, we can stay at home and sit on our hands. We can not try and we can just go, not ever try and book that meeting again. But nothing's going to happen then. My father always said, a no you've already got. If you try and do something, you might get a yes then. But if you don't do anything, you've already got the no. So, because in a place like this, and at conferences generally, people come with so much rich material, what I would love is for you to spend a few minutes just thinking of a situation where you had that was like a real snake, a setback story, and also thinking of a breakthrough story that you had that was like, whoo, up a ladder. So have a little think about that. And then I'd like to ask you to get into groups of 3 or 4, just people grab someone nearby, and share your story. So just go around once, either a snake or a ladder, pick which one you like to share, and if there's enough time, then go around the group again. Is that clear? Any questions? Let's go. Okay, I'm going to bring you back. Find my clicker. Sounds like you all had stories to share, so I'm not the only one that's experienced this kind of thing. And there was, I heard one story, it was like, I had to realize that I was going to go around that loop forever and ever, and maybe it was time to leave that board and go and play with somebody else, and that, sometimes that might be necessary. You might have more luck somewhere else. So, where are we? Oh yeah, this is a wonderful book I read by Ed Catmull, the founder of Pixar, Creativity Inc. And obviously he's been quite successful, but I really like the fact that he recognises that his success has been, yes, a lot of hard work, but also some interesting, some serendipity where he was at the right place at the right time, talking to the right person, and, and he recognises it. He acknowledges that randomness is there, and that he said it helps us respond constructively when we're surprised. So you get that kind of, what's going on here? Really? For the 5th time? What could happen, rather than just sort of falling down that hole of, never going to work. But just keep your mind active about different possibilities and being open. It keeps you open to serendipity. Because what can happen, for example, if it's frustration, it can end up blocking your view. I'm a trained narrative practitioner, and one of the things that we do in that practice is we help people externalize things. So you might have this frustration consuming you, but firstly get it out. What does it look like? Have a look at it over there, and then perhaps see how much it's taking up of your vision and what you can see. So something that I've found helpful in my personally is to be careful with how much those sorts of things consume my thinking. And here I'm inspired by Paul's letter to the Philippians, which is saying whatever things are true, whatever things are noble, whatever things are just, whatever things are pure, whatever things are lovely, whatever things are of good report, if there is any virtue and anything praiseworthy, meditate on these things. So it's kind of like thinking about, even though this situation is awful and frustrating, and frustration doesn't go away, and I'm not pretending it's not there. It's not like don't look up. It's like, okay, this situation is the situation, we need to deal with it. But if I let that frustration overwhelm me to the extent that I can't see other things that are important to me, like actually maintaining optimism, or keeping relationships with these people, or respecting this, basic human dignity, whatever, then I can kind of lose my way. So I'd like you to think in that same way from the stories so this is just a moment for you to reflect on your own. I won't be sharing that, but just from the stories that you shared, what does that say about what's important for you? Is there anything you can draw from your own stories about what was being kind of challenged that indicates what is actually important for you and what is true and lovely and good for you that you want to hold on to and not lose sight of, maybe make bigger in your life so that you've got options and you're not sort of cornered by this other thing. So just have a think about that. When I'm doing this, I've got a very optimistic father, so I was probably kind of brought up like this. But I find something that I tend to do is I tend to put all that stuff into a song. So in this particular case, writing about that game board type idea, Snakes and Ladders, I've got this song. It's about roll the dice, keep you cool, celebrate your advancing friends. It's like, go for it, don't sort of pull them down. And so I find, it's really fascinating, but creating that song, I notice, physically gives me energy. It's a bit like that winning the game when you're rolling the dice. Sometimes you get physical energy from things. I don't know about technically what's going on there, but I just know that I write the song and I feel, something physical happens. And so my invitation to you then is to think about what you do that physically changes how you feel and makes you feel better. So these are like just 2 tips for managing this kind of frustrating process that we go through. So one of them is turning your focus, and the other one is making sure that you engage in activities that generate positive energy for you. So I've got a Mentimeter there. I trust you know how to figure it out or how to use it, and I hope it works well. And I'm going to invite Ava to come in, because I'm not using my machine now, and it occurred to me that the results, I don't know where they are now. Hopefully Ava will be able to find them on here. And while you do that, we can get to the end, and then I'll find them on my phone and I'll read them out. But we can get to the end, you can ask me those questions, because we're nearly done. How about we do that? Is that okay? Stay there though, because it won't take long. So, to summarise, and I'll read out all of these awesome things that you do. In fact, maybe you could just yell them out. What are some of the things you do? Anybody? Music, exercise, sport. Walk around the building with other people and share the struggle. Personal projects. Watching what? Memes. Watching memes. Cleaning. What was the other one? Swearing. Eating. A hot shower with a freezing cold ending. Sorry? Superhero stance. I need to practice my this one, maybe. Oh. Any others? Dancing, jogging. Yeah, so doing something, and it's important not to forget, because often we get kind of down in the thing that we're trying to make happen, and those are the things that we kind of think, oh yeah, I don't really have time to, go for that run or whatever. So just remember to take care of yourself. This is a, take care of yourself pep talk in the midst of the struggle. So just, once again, it's not about what to do, it's more about how to cope. Turn your attention to things that, just like look around. Don't let that one thing be the only thing you see. See some other things, some good things. And don't forget to activate your energy. And remember, don't take it personally. So that's my talk. And there's a QR code for my LinkedIn if you'd like to connect. I'd love to connect with you. And there's a QR code for my song if you're interested. So now Ava's got a couple of questions for me. And I'm just going to have a sip of water.
I have 2 questions at the moment. So if you want to provide another question, please use Slido, #ABBA2020, and choose the yellow room. And I think the interesting one was about the transformation. How do transformations succeed? So they meet the goals set beforehand. What if needs are discovered during the transformation and it goes in a not foreseen direction, Anna?
Yeah, so, and the other question was, is it only McKinsey that does the research, I think?
That's
so
the
it's
second.
like, no, I'm just lazy, and I often find myself agreeing with McKinsey, so when I think, oh, those two will do. But if you want to find some other research on that, I'd be surprised if you found out that 90% of transformations were successful, or even 50. But that could be interesting. Let me know if you do have some of those, and then I can slip that into my slide next time I do it. Success. So it's really their definition of success is that it meets the goals that it set out to meet at the start. So it's true, obviously, things change along the way. We have these snakes and ladders, and it kind of depends how that goal was constructed in the first place. I mean, there's lots go into that, but that's not so much what my talk is about today, though. It's more about how do you survive and thrive.
So
Any other questions?
I have a question, because I really do like this metaphor with snake and ladders, and ladder is over there. Our colleague just presented the Mentimeter.
Ah,
So this is ladder.
awesome. Thank you. Right, so here are some of your answers about what you do. Yeah, take a break, smile, have some sex, write a song, listen to music, watch art, go hiking, talk it through, meditation, do a hard enduro trip, watch art, do some ironing. Yeah, it's interesting sometimes how, just doing something physical that's quite repetitive can be really kind of, just gives you that space. I mean, I do cycling. I, like to go for 2 weeks ago, I rode 120 kilometres all on my own. I'm just so impressed with myself. But, your mind can just go somewhere else and process. It's kind of like sleeping, I suppose, in some way, except that the blood keeps going. Awesome.
One last question. We have time for one last question. Thank you very much for Mentimeter. How do you engage people to a new transformation after the previous one, which failed? That was the question.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one, isn't it? That is a really good question because, and isn't it awful, someone comes in, we're going to do everything, the people are there like, oh, okay, all right, we'll try that. And then it's like all just gloss and bluster. There's posters, there's mugs, nothing really changes. And then those people are gone because, their contract didn't last that long. And then somebody else comes in to try the transformation and the people who are just doing the work was like, yeah, whatever. And then that happens and nothing happens, and then they go, and then the next, and so by the time, somebody else comes in, maybe genuinely going to actually engage with them or whatever, it can be really difficult because the trust is gone and the hope can be gone, and it's like, well, that's all just what they talk about over there, but we're just doing the real jobs down here. So obviously it's about being authentic, following through, not over-promising, listening. It's kind of like being customer-centric, where those people are your customer, and hearing from them and really listening to them and finding out what their problems are, and then making good on your promises. It's again that customer focus is actually about meeting the promises that you're making to the customer. So it's the same within your organisation, I would say. So I'd like to add on that. Some of you were there for my workshop yesterday about going for managing both exploitation and exploration, and I'm really passionate about the fact that a lot of people, haven't been yet made to be or understood how important it is to be comfortable in this kind of uncertain, ambiguous place. And everything within them, or everything they've learned, is about how to manage, exploit, do more with less. And then they're faced with one of these kind of situations, like you want to do a hackathon, and they get all controlling, and they cancel the meetings. And the tendency, it's easy to say, well, they're idiots, or they're deadwood, or they're going to be left behind. We're not going to have them as part of our transformation. But I don't know, people are really surprising and can learn and are creative. And so I think it's important to help those people understand that it's just a different way of managing, and that but both are necessary, and you need to be able to exploit when, in a good sense of the term, make the most of what you've done, as well as explore some other, and lead those people into being able to be comfortable in both situations. So that's just my plea because I think people rock innovation, and I don't think we should leave anybody behind.
Thank you so much. That was definitely a ladder for me for today. Ladies and gentlemen, Anne van der A.
Please join with me on, send me a little message and a little note. It always helps to get a little note so that I know the context. Do connect with me on LinkedIn.